Hello there, this is RomWills coming back at you with yet another video. Men of power are not always obvious. Now this is very important because sometimes people think, yeah, I gotta look a certain way and I gotta talk loud. And I remember I was at this relationship conference, and it was this guy there who had been on some TV shows. I'm not gonna call his name. I ain't gonna give him that much dap. And he had been on some TV shows, and he did have a name for himself. And I remember he was on a cell phone. He was on a phone just talking, and he was real loud and saying, "Well, I'm gonna do this and that," and the ladies were just looking at him like, whatever. He was trying to project like he had some power, he had some influence, and they were just like, whatever. He was being too obvious about it. I'm gonna tell you what, men who really have power, they're not always obvious unless somebody knows how to look at them. They're not always obvious. I remember I was on one of my 1,000 jobs, and there was a young lady on there who, she didn't give me the time of day. She didn't say nothing to me until a guy who knew me and somebody who knew her told her about me. And then she got real friendly, and I never forget what she said. She said, "You about power." But she didn't know it. She couldn't look at me and tell. See, here's the thing. If you're a man of power, it's not always about what kind of car you drive. It's not about the fancy clothes you wear. It's really just, you just can get stuff done. Like I'll give the name, may rest in peace, Steve Jobs. He would wear the same style of clothes every day. He would wear the same style of clothes every day because he didn't want to think about it. But look how much power he has. I mean, come on, Apple has a cult out there. Apple has a cult. People go crazy. People will camp out overnight to get his products. Apple is powerful. Yet you couldn't tell by looking at him. Or you look at some of these other billionaires. They don't be driving like a real fancy car or sports car or dressing all fly or wearing name brands. Now they will get expensive clothes. They will do that. But they don't have labels on it. In fact, one of the things they said about labels is mostly poor and middle class people will buy them, and indeed even steal them. But then the rich, they'll buy stuff that's of great quality and probably cost a lot, but you can't look at it and tell. It looks like something they got from some discount store. But they have power. And indeed, it's not, and the only way you can tell if somebody is used to being around power, maybe how someone walks and how they enter a room, how they hold their head, their body posture and everything. Now, somebody who is familiar with power can probably tell that. But let's be real, most people, they can't tell that. If you're a man of power, you're not going to announce it. You just get stuff done. When you got to get stuff done, you get stuff done. You might not drive that like real fancy car. You might drive, but you might drive that Toyota or something. In fact, you've Toyota or Nissan, Chevy. I like Chevys, but you're not going to be obvious about it. Indeed, just there's some ball players. There's some ball players now. They don't have big old mansions. They sleeping in like maybe a 2-bedroom house. There's been plenty of ball players sleeping in an ordinary house. There's some millionaires out there. There was a book that came out years ago. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. Like there are some millionaires who might be in some ordinary house. You can't tell how much money they have. In fact, there's a lot of millionaires like that. They're not going to do that. But they got a lot of power. They can get stuff done. It's not always obvious. If you're a man of power, you don't want to walk around out here with that big old watch on or that fancy watch or wearing those name brand clothes. Usually that's a sign that you don't have power, that you're trying. And indeed, those luxury brand companies, they count on that. They count on that somebody who really doesn't have that power will spend all their money on it. But people, particularly men who have that power, they don't let you know. They don't let you know. Even if it's on a smaller level. I remember I dealt with this young lady who invited me to an office cookout. And I don't know why an office cookout. But I could tell who the boss was. It was a lady, even though I'm talking about men of power, but this is a good example. And all these people, they were getting drunk and all of that. They were getting drunk. They were acting silly. This lady was just sitting back. And I said, I just kind of sat over near her, and she didn't really say much to me, but she was just paying attention to everybody. And I said, oh, okay, this is probably the boss. That's usually how men of power will act. They're not going to walk into a room and let everybody know that they're there. If you get to go to any event, anything, you get some man who's being loud, trying to draw attention to them, trying to behave like they're alpha, they probably don't have a lot of power. If I go into a room of people, I'm paying attention to who's sitting back quiet, who's not trying to draw attention to themselves, who's looking at everything. Those are usually the ones who have real power because they just get stuff done. See, one thing about power is about getting the things done you want. It's not about showing it. It's not about making it obvious. It's not about driving that fancy car or wearing those clothes. It's about getting the things done that you want to get done. Power can move in a quiet way. It's intangible. It doesn't have to be loud with it. If you're a man trying to get power, don't think you have to let everybody know. That's one thing. You building your power, you building your knowledge up. Let me use that for an example. If you building up that knowledge, you don't have to let people know. You don't have to talk about it. I'll use myself for an example. I have a knowledge of a lot of things, but only share a little bit of it. I don't share what I know unless I'm around some people talking about that, then I might talk about it. But you don't have to. You have knowledge of something. You don't have to let people know. Oh, like if you get some people, you get some men who they feel like they have to tell everybody around them what they know or flash their money. You don't do that. You don't do that. You keep it quiet. You keep the knowledge until you need to use it for something. You don't let them know how much money you have, because you don't have to let someone know how much power you have, or you don't have to impress people, because men of power, they have the power. They can get done what they want. And if somebody think that they don't have power, a true man of power is like, okay, they can move in peace. Real power can move in silence. Real power is not letting people know unless they need to for whatever reason. And usually power can be like a scalpel. In fact, I'm gonna talk about that next week. Real power can be like a scalpel. So anyway, that's all I have for right now. I want y'all to think about what I said. For the men out there trying to get real power, you don't have to let everybody know. Just get your power and do what you can with it. Live the life that you want to live. All right? So anyway, I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.